A couple of days ago was Carnival, and here in the western region of Germany, Carnival is quite a big thing. And so I went with one of the local groups in one of the parades, and therefore I needed a costume. Our main theme of the group was quite broad. We all went as Swedes. That was basically the restriction of the group itself. And I gave myself two more restrictions. One is I wanted to be able to dance and have fun. The other thing is that I wanted to make something that I could wear again, maybe as a costume the other of the upcoming years or in everyday life, so that it is reusable and somewhat sustainable. And my very first intention was to make popcorn. It just was the thing in my head. I wanted to be popcorn. So I went and looked for some inspiration, and I found some 1950s skirts and underskirts with white and red stripes, and I was absolutely sold on the idea. So that's what I used as a starting point. After researching pattern references, I developed a simple skirt pattern and added a removable apron top. This way I could wear the costume over a warm jacket while keeping the vertical stripes leading up to the neckline, where the popcorn would begin. I made a quick mock-up to ensure everything fit properly before ordering fabric online, and I just had to take out a little fabric at the waistline because I drafted the pattern slightly too big. Finding red striped cotton fabric locally proved difficult, so I had to choose between two available options online. I decided on the one with bold white stripes for the most striking effect. Cutting out the pieces was fairly straightforward, since all four skirt panels were identical. However, it took me time to arrange them perfectly for minimal waste, while ensuring that the stripes aligned seamlessly. Since I wanted each stripe to align perfectly, I basted the seams in place before sewing. That's when I noticed I made a huge mistake. For a moment I considered just sitting down crying, but instead I decided to fix it. Somehow between the mock-up and cutting out, I had lost 8 centimeters of waist circumference. I have no idea when or how it happened, but I should have checked before cutting. Fortunately, I had allowed 1.5 centimeter of seam allowance, so I let out the seams as much as possible. The seam allowances were now worryingly small, so I reinforced them with twill tape, sewing right next to the seam line. To do this, I had to practically crawl into the sewing machine just to see what I was doing. But it worked. The edges were now protected and wouldn't fray. At least that's what I hope. Next, I sewed the underlap in by sandwiching the skirt fabric between the underlap layers. On the opposite side, I added the facing, securing it with an invisible felling stitch. The skirt was still a bit tight, so I removed 1 cm from the top seam allowance, shortening the skirt slightly, but making it fit more comfortably. I attached a narrow waistband and secured it with a skirt hook and press buttons. This looks so sad. It's just hanging down, like... I hope that the facing will make it, because when you're expecting a 1950s skirt, you don't expect that. The vintage patterns I referenced suggested a facing made of crinoline or canvas, but I wanted something lighter than canvas and more natural than crinoline. I opted for horsehair inlay, which is lightweight yet structured. And I've made a strip of ruffles for the hem out of white satin. Then sandwiched it between the main fabric and the taffeta before sewing everything together. Unfortunately, the taffeta wasn't as stiff as I expected. It was Cupro based, and while the weave was typical of taffeta, the texture was much softer. Still, for this project it would work. With the facing in place, I added the horsehair inlay and secured all edges with a felling stitch to prevent shifting. In hindsight, I should have sewn twill tape to the horsehair edges and stitched it in place during the main construction. But I forgot about this technique, distracted by my earlier mistake. As a result, I had to spend several hours hand sewing the inlay to the skirt. The final step was securing the top seam, fastening both the taffeta and the horsehair in one go. With the skirt complete, I moved on to the apron. I cut out a tiny looking front piece, shoulder straps and pockets. I finished the edges. Turned the shoulder straps into tubes, then attached them to the front piece. I think I don't like this pocket. I will remove that and make it that the right stripe goes through so that it's more camouflaged. And maybe I will add some ruffles to the straps and the sides. But first I will exchange that, because I think it's just too much. It's too busy now. The upper part of the apron seemed too narrow, compared to the skirt, so I decided to add ruffles. These were wider at the shoulders and tapered towards the ends. I cut them from cotton satin and this time thought carefully before cutting. I made 2 evenly tapered stripes, folded them in half and sewed them into tubes so that the seam allowance remained hidden inside. After gathering and attaching the ruffles to the shoulder straps, the apron had a much better silhouette. To make it removable, I attached it to the skirt with buttons, allowing me to wear the skirt alone, possibly as a bold summer piece. I spent the last couple hours thinking about how to make the popcorn. I have now the bag, technically, but not the popcorn itself. I thought about using PU foam in white and making these blobs which form like popcorn, but I need a form to put it on in order to be able to move. I thought about using this dress form, but then I'm afraid I'm gonna ruin it if the foam gets through or something. And then I had an idea that I just could use this basket and basically cover it in plastic bags, then putting the foam on top of that and then remove it later and make it that it's one construction so that I can wear it on my shoulders, maybe make some shoulder pads that they are a little bit upholstered here. And if it's not going to work out, I have to figure out something else. But I'm somewhat confident that this will work. So I came down to the basement in hopes that I won't destroy anything down here. I have a rather weird setup, but I hope it will work. This is the setup. Some random table legs and then the basket on top of it. Since the foam tended to fall off the basket, I later on glued them back on again with another layer of foam once they were dry. This created the illusion of popcorns stacked on each other. Throughout the process I had serious doubt about whether it would work, but once dry, it actually looked like popcorn. I brought the pieces upstairs and dry brushed them with brown and yellow acrylic paint to add realism and make it even better looking. I also made a small hairpiece by hot gluing a spare popcorn blob onto a hair clip. As a finishing touch, my father crafted 2 popcorn brand logos from thin wood sheets and prints, which we hot glued onto laundry clips, and this allowed me to attach them to the skirt as a final detail. With everything in place, it was time to put my costume to the test. And it worked. I danced through the entire parade without issues. The only downside was that my arm movement was almost non-existent. This costume is not designed for eating, drinking, or touching your face in any way. So all my criteria were met. It was fun to dance. It was somewhat comfortable and practical. The only thing with the arms wasn't that practical, but it was comfortable and it made people smile and I just had fun. That's, I think, all criteria met. Only after washing I realized that I made a major mistake because I didn't secure the edges of the horsehair inlay. I thought about it and then skipped it because I somewhat hoped that it will work. It of course didn't, and the complete horsehair crumbled, and so I had to remove the facing, and I also removed then the horsehair inlay and then just sewed the facing back on again. So now the skirt hasn't that much of a stand and volume, but I think with a petticoat underneath that's fine, and I learned my lesson for the future. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day and see you soon. Bye bye.